Hello folks, and welcome to Kinetic Typography Tutorial 2. Now just as a recap, let's just have a look at where we got to in Tutorial 1. I'll just play it back for you.
Hello and welcome to Kinetic Typography. Hello and welcome to Kinetic Typography.
So that was not a bad start, and we were using simple position keyframes to animate the text onto the screen. Now, one of the things that you may have noticed about animating in this manner is that the actual movement of the text, at the moment, I think is a little bit mechanical and doesn't look particularly realistic. If we look at the movements here, they're coming on and off the screen. But in the real world, if objects were moving this quickly in front of our eyes, they would blur slightly. So we're going to add a motion blur to add a little bit of reality to these movements. And it's pretty simple to do. If you look here, and I'll just click on it just to give you an idea of where it is, we've got this button here that says Motion Blur Simulates Shutter Duration. And underneath, we've got a series of little boxes that we can tick to add motion blur to each layer of text. Now, if you can't see this column, folks, click on here, Toggle Switches and Modes, and it should put the motion blur column on. So I'm going to set motion blur for this layer, and all the text layers, like so. And then up here on this tab, it will enable the motion blur. So I'm going to click on that as well. Now when we render it out, you'll see that the text, as it moves onto the screen, has a very satisfying blur to it, which mimics movement in the real world. Let's play it back.
Hello and welcome to Kinetic Typography. Hello and welcome to Kinetic Typography.
It's a subtle change, but it does make a difference. If I scrub through it, you can see the blur on the text. On typography, we can see a nice blur there, and on the word kinetic as well, like so. And it just adds a little bit of reality to the movement, because when things move that quickly in front of our eyes in the real world, they should blur. There's one other thing you might want to do as well, just to add a little bit more reality to the movements. And I'm going to open, in fact, I think I'll do it on typography. I'm going to open typography here, open the transform property here, and we can see the position keyframes we set in the first tutorial. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do a right click on this keyframe, go to Keyframe Assistant, and select Easy Ease In. It'll change that keyframe here to an Easy Ease keyframe. It looks like half a diamond. Now that's going to make a slightly subtle, and in this case it will be a very subtle change. What it will do is, as the text approaches the end point, it'll ease the motion up ever so slightly. What it will also do is, it means that the blur, or the motion blur, will ease up a little bit towards the end as well. It's ever such a subtle effect, but what it does mean is that the text will actually start to approach the end and ease slightly as it comes in. It's a subtle effect, but I would recommend you do it on all of the layers, because if you don't, what will happen is the movement, let's say on this particular piece of text, so the movement on this text will be constant across the motion. And in the real world, objects often don't move at a constant speed. When objects reach an end point, they will often slow down. So to make an object appear that it's slowing down, we click on this end keyframe and go to Easy Ease In. And again, the Easy Ease In, just to repeat the point, will ease up the motion and slow down the speed as it reaches the endpoint. Now I'm just going to show you a version that I made earlier that's got motion blur and Easy Ease keyframes on all of the text layers. Let me just open it. So as we can see here, if we look on the end keyframe points, here, 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 and here, and on this one as well, all of these have been set to Easy Ease. And what it means is, as the text approaches the end of the movement, it will just ease up and slow down a little bit, again, like an object would in the real world. Let's just play it back and have a look at it.
Hello and welcome to Kinetic Typography. Hello and welcome to Kinetic Typography.
So it's a subtle change, but it's a change worth making, and you'll find that the movement of your text starts to look a bit more realistic. So just to recap, to add a bit more realism to the movement, make sure here you've set motion blur on all of the layers, and here you've activated motion blur for the whole composition. And then finally, make sure you click, or right click rather, on the end position keyframe, go to Keyframe Assistant and set it to Easy Ease In. If you do all of those things, you'll have a nice, smooth, slightly more realistic animation. Let's look at it one final time.
Hello and welcome to Kinetic Typography.
Okay folks, we'll leave it there. See you in the next tutorial.